Fox News Alert. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Bolling. Radical Islamic terrorists strike Europe once again, this time in Belgium, with coordinated attacks in the capital of Brussels. Its main airport and a subway station hit in the height of the morning rush hour. At least 31 people are dead and more than 200-ish injured. No surprise, ISIS has claimed responsibility. The latest jihad comes just 4 days after the arrest of a key suspect in the Paris attacks. Salah Abdel Salam was captured about 13 miles from the airport and 2 miles from the metro station. Was his arrest was it tied to today's terror? What the intelligence analysts are saying about that in just a few minutes. But first, President Obama spent all of 51 seconds earlier today to address the new Muslim terror attack while down in the communist state of Cuba.
Before I begin, please indulge me. I want to comment on the terrorist attacks that have taken place in Brussels. The thoughts and the prayers of the American people are with the people of Belgium, and we stand in solidarity with them in condemning these outrageous attacks against innocent people. We will do whatever is necessary to support our friend and ally Belgium in bringing to justice those who are responsible. And this is yet another reminder that the world must unite. We must be together, regardless of nationality or race or faith, in fighting against the scourge of terrorism. We can and we will defeat those who threaten the safety and security of people all around the world.
And that was it. That was the extent of the comments from Cuba. For the very latest on the terror overseas, let's go to Fox News senior foreign affairs correspondent Greg Palcott, live in Brussels. Bring us up to speed. Greg, I noticed you upped that injury number to 200 recently.
Even 230 is what we're hearing now from officials, Eric. There's a lot of manhunt going on right now for those responsible for the death and destruction that occurred at the Brussels airport behind me. It is dark now. It's been shut down by the ISIS-backed terrorists. A lot of attention now going away from the airport, try to find out who was responsible. Police are circulating a surveillance picture, a closed-circuit camera picture of a man in white who they believe is a key suspect, maybe a string puller in these attacks, as well as two men in black. And believe it or not, police think that those two are suicide bombers. One or two are dead right now. There was a blast here and a blast at the subway station too, right near the EU headquarters and the U.S. Embassy. These two blasts, the people responsible for, are now being sought in the center of that center of the city. There is house-to-house searches, door-to-door searches being conducted by the police as the death toll grows. Again, what we've been saying is at least 30 dead, 230 injured. Among those injured, very sadly, Eric, are so far that we know of 9 Americans, an active military service member, as well as 5 members of his family, and 3 missionaries of the Mormon faith. They are their homes are in Utah. Again, as you noted, this comes just 4 days after the arrest of Salah Abdel Salam. He's a key player in the Paris attacks back in November, and prosecutors over the weekend were saying he was planning more attacks. He had set up a network, and that's what he was saying. The thinking is that these attacks are actually what he was planning, or a revenge attack by these ISIS-backed terrorists against the arrests. A lot of questions tonight. Back to you.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you very much for that report. So, KG, let's bring it around a little bit. They say there are others, possibly others, on the run still. They're still looking, going door to door, on at least one, maybe 2 undetonated suicide vests as well, or murder vests.
Which is an incredibly alarming situation. Obviously, this is circumstances they have to keep a close eye on in terms of gathering intelligence information in a rapidly evolving situation here, because they need to find out where those people are and eliminate them before they do some further damage. As you saw, this was obviously very logistically coordinated, synchronized attack, multiple locations. This showed some serious level of intelligence gathering ahead of time to be able to plan this, coordinate, and set it off to do maximum damage and casualties. So this is something that they need to pay attention to. Not only that, what is Angela Merkel thinking right now, too? And you've got votes going on with Britain trying to exit the EU, very concerned about the open borders there and people being able to move freely back and forth, which is an aid to terror. That's the reality of the situation.
Let me build on that a little bit with you, Dana. KG points out the open borders. Brussels, Belgium sits right between France and Germany on the other side. We know Germany took somewhere around, what, 1 million Syrian refugees with an open border that way. France has at least closed their border. Is it time to maybe start thinking about closed borders in Europe?
Yes, but however, one of their biggest problems is not new people coming in. This terror cell and the people that he knew have been there for a long time. They are members of the community, and in fact, it took them 4 months to try to track him down, Absalam, who was arrested on Friday, and fortunately captured alive so that they could get some intel. But the problem is, if you think about that community that he was in, basically was hiding and abetting him for 4 months. Maybe more. And so you have to wonder what sort of intel did they get from him and his family or neighbors or his friends. Obviously not enough in order to try to prevent this attack. So there is the major concern about refugees that are coming. Obviously not all of them are going to be terrorists, but what is your risk tolerance level, especially when you have basically infested with terrorists all throughout Europe. In particular, Belgium has been a growing problem for years.
Juan, does this teach us anything when we watch this? Should President Obama and the administration be seeing what's going on over there and say, well, here's our strategy, maybe we need to tweak our strategy a bit?
I think we have a strategy. The question is, how do you prevent these kinds of incidents? I don't know that there's any foolproof strategy or policy that would say, oh, we will never have a terror attack on our home front. This is a tragic event, and I would come back to something Dana said, that what you see is this neighborhood in Brussels apparently is a breeding ground for terrorists, and the people who were involved in the Paris attacks last November are directly linked to this neighborhood. The man who was arrested Friday is the prime suspect as the planner of the Paris attacks, and now, 4 days after he is captured, we see this occur. This morning, Mike Morell, the former deputy CIA director, said he thinks that, in fact, maybe these attacks were being planned by Salam, excuse me if I'm mispronouncing his name, but that it was moved up because of his capture.
And Brian, just Brussels, beautiful city at one point. Now, all of a sudden, it's terror cell laden, ridden with risk and fear. The people must be scared to death walking around there.
They're already on high alert. They had the arrest on Friday, the killing. Snipers took out another would-be terrorist involved with the Paris bombing on Tuesday. So they're already ready. They're already on high alert. So that could say they caught them by surprise. That's kind of scary. Where they got shot, where they were taken out, where the bombs went off inside the airport, which wasn't the high-security area, is also something of note. The guy they're looking for, this Majim Lakraoui, this guy, for those who paint these people up, they have nowhere to go, they have no jobs. This guy has an electromechanical engineering degree from a school in Brussels. He is the bomb maker. Now, he was given up on Friday by the guy that was captured, part of the Paris thing. We can't find this guy. But knowing, by the way, we found him a few blocks away, this could be the same guy. In the beginning, I understand, in retrospect, and everyone makes mistakes, the people in Brussels, they allowed these guys to go. When they decided to go to Syria and fight, I think the people of Belgium were like, good, get out of here, you've been causing trouble anyway. They didn't know they were going to come back. And they came back as terrorists. And so now you got a trained terror cell, a series of them, inside this beautiful city of Brussels, which might never be the same.
And we did. Last week we talked about some of the methods that the police and whatever their version of the FBI is in Brussels saying, you know, there are times that we can search homes, there are times we're not supposed to. Maybe it's time to throw all that PC political correctness out the window.
How unfair to the people, you know, in Belgium and in Brussels in particular that have lost loved ones, where there's blood spilt everywhere that was unnecessary, that could have been prevented. Could have been prevented. People get cancer through no fault of their own. When you allow terror to seep into your communities, to your homes, to your neighborhoods, to kill your women, men, and children, this is what happens. You can't have a curfew on terror. I'm so sorry, terrorists, we want to be not offensive to you, so at 9 o'clock we're not going to do anything after that time. It makes no sense to me. This is living, sad proof of what happens when you have policies like that.
Does anyone at the table think that this is not a precursor for something happening here?
Well, how do you know or say that? I mean, I don't wish that on us.
No, I didn't say I wish it. I say, is it not a precursor? Is it not something that we should be taking seriously? A lesson learned, saying, hey, let's not be PC here. Let's go in and start looking, maybe even profiling if you have to to find out if there are terror cells, if people are planning bad stuff here.
Well, New York has done a great job of putting people in these major cities ahead of time. So there's people deployed there. I imagine Dana would know better, possibly now. Certainly they're being flown over there to study it unless this great mayor we have has dismantled that as well. I do think there's a go sign being given from Syria, from Raqqa, that is disturbing because we let this terror heart beat in Raqqa. We've done ridiculously little. We have 50 special ops outside Syria. We have 3,700 troops in Iraq advising. We have a handful of terror strikes in the big picture of the last 3 years, and we're surprised that these terror cells are continuing to flourish and they're continuing to grow. We're not seriously taking on the enemy.
Dana, we've talked about Raqqa for months, right? We've talked about leveling Raqqa. It's their training ground. It's their headquarters. We know all about. We know where they are. We choose not to because I guess we're concerned about collateral damage. But also we learned today that the number, that when ISIS said they took credit for it, they did it through their news organization. Yep. ISIS has a news organization.
And currency.
Can't we shut that down? Shouldn't we shut that down?
Well, there is a school of thought that you want to allow it to continue so that you can get the intel and sort of try to tease that out. I don't necessarily subscribe to that. But their social media activity is also very concerning. And to your point about the United States, just remember what FBI Director Comey has said publicly, that he has open investigations that are radical Islam or ISIS related in all 50 states. And yet we still also, we had a lone wolf attack in San Bernardino, and you almost get no follow-up on that. Like, I think it's a real injustice to those families that we don't know more about how that happened under our nose. And I would love to say that that was just an isolated incident, but when the FBI is saying they have 50 open investigations, 50 investigations in all 50 states, we don't know how many investigations per state and how good our intel is. Our intel always has to be better than theirs, but the way that they operate in secret, it's very hard to prevent something like this from happening against a soft target.
Dana, we might have more investigations if we could open up that phone.
Right.
Well, and I think that's what they're trying to do now, and apparently they are going to be able to open up the phone. But I would say this, that hats off to the FBI. They should have 50 investigations in all 50 states, and I hope that they would have more, because that's the only way to prevent these.
Can I be provocative here for 1 second? Let me be provocative for 1 second. We have a large Somali population in the Twin City, in Minneapolis area. Is it worth having extra scrutiny in that area by the FBI and other agencies?
They do already, yes.
And additional, maybe looking into taking some liberties?
No, you mean violate our Constitution?
No, I don't mean violate
But I mean, gosh, we track very carefully young people in that area, their travel, their associations, all that is done.
I think we're doing enough.
I don't know if we're I mean, you can never say, because if something happens, you want to make sure.
There's more that can be done, because terror takes the path of least resistance, and that's what we don't want to happen here.
All right, we're going to leave it right there.